Okay, everybody, welcome back to the Pat Flynn Show. Here again with Dan John for our weekly conversation, and I'm sure this one will be delightful. Dan, I wanted to tell you, I should have let our listeners know, but this past week, actually, one of our listeners let me know that Maffetone's book, the big book on endurance, was on sale for like $2
No,
on
oh
on
really?
on Kindle. So I don't know if that sale's still going on, but I took advantage of that, and I've been paging through that. And what a wonderful resource that is. So I thought maybe we could, I know he's somebody who's inspired you. Maybe we could start by talking about who he is and some of his
Sure.
work. Mm-hmm.
Well, this story goes back a long time to before I met Tiffany. Now, we've been married 32 years, and so Phil Maffetone, I'd gotten injured, and which isn't unusual. And uh, I started working with a guy named Dr. Kevin Morgan, who was very good for me because he believed completely that I could come back and better, bigger and better. So this would have been after the Middle East, liver parasite, losing the 40 pounds. I picked up a typewriter and blew my back out, which I've been told later on happens a lot with rapid weight loss because you're built, we're like a sailboat, if you pull some of the rigging too hard, something on the other end goes bad. So,
Right.
And he got me to bilateral swim and bilateral breathe. That's what I did, sprint triathlons. And then he gave me a book. In fact, the book is right in there somewhere in my close pile of books. His book on fitness and health. And when I started reading Maffetone, almost instantly I went, this guy's different. And so Phil Maffetone is a chiropractor who is also a jazz musician, much like yourself, a kind of a generalist. In fact, nowadays you go to his site, his music is just as prevalent as his health advice.
I knew I liked him.
He started working with triathletes and a guy named Stu Middleton, who broke the world 1,000 mile time. So it's an event where you run 1,000 miles for time. I can't imagine anything worse, but I would do it to save humanity. The thing about Maffetone is the first to teach me again that fats aren't bad, that carbohydrates by themselves aren't bad, but certain ones are. For example, like basically, whatever the United States subsidizes, it's bad. And I am talking to you, Midwestern United States people. Your subsidized food is destroying the rest of us. So thank you for your, yeah. So one of the things he has is this thing called the Maffetone number, which instead of that made up thing, the guy who invented Nautilus made up that 220 minus number.
Right.
There is no scientific background for that. So Maffetone just looked at the numbers and said, well, it's much easier just to do 180 minus your age as your top end of fat burning and 160 minus your age for kind of your lower end. And I try to live in my workouts, my rucking, my walking in the middle of that number. In fact, I did the MAF test last Friday. So he was sort of famous to a lot of us. He was like a secret. He was the guy that strength athletes and coaches trusted. I would say nowadays I'd throw in Steve Magnus too. But the thing we trusted about him is he seemed to understand how easy it was to overtrain in the cardiovascular world by driving your heart rate up, becoming a sugar burner, and basically feeling like crap most of the time. Well, he remained a secret for a long time. He was big with the triathletes because he took Mark Allen, the world record holder still, I think, in the Ironman, and he took a broken down Mark Allen and completely regenerated his career so that Mark Allen's numbers are still better, a decade after retired, still better than anybody else. And these guys are hyper professional now. But he became very famous in McDougall's second book. The first book was Born to Run. And his second book, which I still am waiting for all the secrets he talks about, Natural Born Heroes. There's basically 2 stars in that book. Well, there's 3. He talks about parkour in the book. He talks about this fighting style that was originated with the OSS guys in World War II. And then he talks about the teachings of Phil Maffetone. And then he drapes that against the Cretes fighting the Nazis in World War II, plus a whole bunch of myths. And I still think he ought to sit down and rewrite the book and put it in a logical sequence, but that's just me. And so Maffetone became very famous again. But Phil has been quietly sitting on the sidelines for 35, 40 years, working with high-end athletes, sadly, after they usually are broken and burned out, and then rebuilding them because of simple things. There's not, in fact, the funny thing is, Pat, you probably do Maffetone-esque stuff without even knowing it. Right. Like he has this famous 2-week test where basically you go back to nature for 2 weeks. And then you add a food like every day for a while to see if your body reacts to it. So for 2 weeks, no sugar, no cereal, it's going to be, it's going to be meat, leaves, and berries for 2 weeks.
Leaves and berries, right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to add a food to see how that impacts you. Most people find that after 2 weeks of meat, leaves, and berries, they wonder why they ever start eating anyplace else. So Maffetone, and he also, he reminds me a lot of Marty Gallagher on good podcasts. He's very helpful, but you'd have to listen to Marty and Phil Maffetone to understand it, but they're very helpful, and I think they're both surprised that people are interested in what they're doing.
Yeah, well, I might have to reach out to the guy, see if we can get him on here sometime, Dan. I want to thank Michael Lank. He's a listener. He's written in before with a number of questions who mentioned that his book was on sale. I mean, $2. What a deal this is. I've been paging through it. There's a chapter in here that I thought might make for a good conversation starter as well. Chapter 27 called Fit But Unhealthy: Why Death is the Ultimate Injury and Measures to Prevent It. And I know this is a theme that you've talked about in a number of your books too, that people sometimes conflate being fit with being healthy, but they're not technically the same thing. So I thought, yeah, maybe that might be a good theme to play around with.
That's why I use Darwin's definition of fitness, the ability to do a task. I use Maffetone's definition of health, the optimal interplay of the organs. But then I realized when I'm working in my world, using fit for a task, and I originally bumped heads with Greg Glassman over this, because Greg has his own definition of fitness, but the only answer he had was CrossFit. But the truth is, you could have a 72-year-old grandmother, who's extremely fit for her tasks, who's never done a burpee. And so for me, I had to add another word, and that was performance. And performance is when you're asked to do a task on a specific time, a specific place, a specific date. And then I realized that when people talk about health, this thing always shows up. This ghost shows up called longevity. And longevity has two sides, quantity and quality. So Maffetone does a great job in that chapter saying, okay, you're fit. You won the Boston Marathon, and then you died.
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm.
Which does happen, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's got some interesting stories in there of very high performing endurance athletes in this case who either died shortly after or during some of the events.
Yeah, Princess Grace's brother Jack, he was an Olympic rower, died with a heart attack rowing. I one time mentioned James Fix. He wrote the book, the running book, the Joy of Running. He died on a run. And of course, I poked fun one time, and someone really got in my grill. He goes, he had a congenital heart problem. And my thought is, it's the same thing I hear in my world all the time when a guy who used steroids for 30, 40, 50 years dies of a heart attack. And I say, well, because he took steroids. He was born with a heart defect. Well, good. Well, taking steroids probably didn't help it, Folks, steroids are bad.
Right.
Okay.
And the other point too, and this is, I think our audience gets this because, at least most of the people who listen to my podcast, look, I'm not training Olympic athletes. I'm not training world-class competitors. Most of my audience wants to be generally fit, and they want that balance between fitness and health. And I think it is important to realize that once you get into a certain level of performance, I almost hesitate to say that it's a necessary trade-off, but it does seem like there's a necessary trade-off there between fitness and health, right? Mm-hmm.
Patrick, I don't know where you'd put me as an athlete in my career. I would say, when you look at what I've done, there's some impressive stuff there. I can stand by my success. I think I was good. Trade-off, there's not many joints in my body that haven't been cut open. Trade-off, fortunately, I'm fairly, one of the trade-offs I've done, I now know I have to undo a lot of the damage from the high tension stuff. So that's why I do the heavy hands walking and, the daily walks that I worry about eating the sauerkraut, the quality of sleep. I'm literally trying to undo the damage of a 40-year discus throwing career.
Right.
And other things.
Yeah,
so,
I remember just real quick. I remember it was this was years ago. I was just hanging out with a bunch of people, and one of them was a former professional arm wrestler, and he was kind of having an argument with a guy, and his argument was essentially this. He's like, if you're going to be an arm wrestler, like you're just going to destroy your elbows. Like you're going to have elbow tendonitis. And the guy he was arguing with is like, no, I don't think that's necessary. He's like, and how long have you been an arm wrestler for? And of course the guy hadn't been, right? But like there's something refreshing about that level of upfrontness or candor. Like, hey, this is just the trade-off, right? If this is what you want, this is just what to expect. And I think, that's because I don't think that's talked about enough. And that's why I always appreciate what you have to say is you're very upfront about that. Is if you're seeking a very high level of performance, I would argue in anything. There's a point where it starts to impinge upon health. I mean, even academic and intellectual performance, it's going to come back and hurt you in some sense.
That's why it was such a blessing for me. Okay, let's get back to 1985. I'm sitting in I'm living in a basement. I've got a fold-out bed. It's a couch. It's a couch during the day and a bed at night. I have a car that will never run again. I'm going to get it towed in a few days. I go down to the library. I find these things called audio tapes, and one of them is called Lead the Field by Earl Nightingale. Available for free now on YouTube, folks. And what Earl talks about is being in the top 5%. And when the moment I heard that, Pat, I realized that, okay, I would never be the best discus thrower in the world. There's no way I could beat the Germans who 24/7 healthcare, cafeterias, they get massages anytime they want. They have obviously all kinds of anabolic support, obviously all kinds of other things. But I could be a top 5% discus thrower. In fact, I was. I mean, probably still am. I know statistically I am because somebody looked it up for me. I am probably in top 3% of authors of all time because of the number of books I've sold. That's just a fact. Am I top 5% of teachers? Well, I don't know about that, but the feedback from my students is good. Am I a top 5% dad? Well, when I look around, yeah. So what I try to do, instead of try to be number one, I try to be pretty damn good. I try to do the little things. I can't be a TV dad, but I can certainly be the best dad I can. And I got to tell you, and lately I've done some things with I have failed my daughters many times, but at the same time, I will then talk about it and we're good to go again.
Right.
So to me, being number one is fine. Being top 5 is doable, repeatable. I don't want to say healthier because it goes against what we're talking about, but maybe healthy in the sense as your brain is healthier.
Right. Yeah. No, I think there is because what's that little book that I wrote? The green one, whatever that's called, right? I talk about this kind of the rule of 80%, and people initially think I'm talking about the 80-20 rule, but that's not actually it. My argument is more along the lines of there's this point of good enough is good enough in certain skill pursuits, where if you're looking to be a generalist, that point, whatever it is, I don't define it too specifically. Maybe it's in the top 5%. Maybe it's something around there where, after that point, the amount you get back from every effort you put in is so increasingly marginal that the juice just it no longer really becomes worth the squeeze. You're better off pivoting and switching to some other focus and becoming more of a generalist. And I think that's kind of what we're dancing around here in this conversation, is trying to identify those points of where the juice is still worth the proverbial squeeze in fitness, in our academic pursuits, in business as well. I mean, business as well. How many people expense, it's not just health too, but it's how many people expense their relationships, their family, their friendships, just to try and build the empire, as they call it, right? The business empire. Where I think what we're both saying is, okay, that's, that fair and fine. That really wasn't a very healthy thing for me. I don't think it's healthy for a lot of people, but maybe
you have that too in the book, gentle listener. He has 2 pages on a fitness program, and I believe I'm not going to get it perfect, but you basically recommend naked Turkish get-ups, right? Something like jumping rope. You recommend walking, and then you got push, pull, hinge, squat, loaded carry. On the other page, you have examples of that, and then you have resources, and then I think you have maybe a 2-week program. This is off the top of my head, but so it's,
you remember more of it than I do.
Yeah. So you have push and hinge on day 1. You have squat and pull, and it goes like that. And the nice thing is it's only 2 pages. And the truth is those 2 pages are a template for a high school football player, a master's thrower, Highland gamer, a guy who wants to do triathlons, a mom or dad who wants to look good, feel good, be sexy. So yes, in 2 pages, we can get you to 80%. Hell, we can get you even high. I think we can get you to 95. Now, that next 5 or 20%, now I have to sit back in the chair and go, well, here we go. Here we go. Now there's some things we have to start doing. Right. Wouldn't that be a fun book for me to write? Quadrants and lists.
Yeah, that'd be a great book.
Just here you go. Pardon me. Sorry, folks. Here in Utah, we are downwind from the California fires, and the air quality is terrible. So everyone I know is struggling. And, of course, we have new pollen coming out. So,
of course,
everyone I know is struggling. And speaking of people struggling, one of our gentle listeners, Sarge, Robert Leishman, he's recovering from a broken collarbone. And so, hey, shout out to you. Get better. He's a big fan of our podcast.
Yeah, God bless you, Sarge. Recover quick and full.
And, he's one of those guys who he's with the military, and he's just a good and decent person. Okay.
Good. Mm-hmm.
Don't get cocky since I said that, Robert.
It's hard not to after you're complimented by Dan John. Yeah, your ego quickly gets away from you. So this idea, if you were real quick, Dan, before we turn to questions, because people like blueprints, they like checklists. I am too. That's why I tried to give them in the book. If you were to have so a problem that people fall into, and we all do this when we're young and we're very excited. We become fit, but in many ways unhealthy. Same thing, when I was in my early 20s, like I was fit, but I wouldn't say I was unhealthy, because it's hard to be unhealthy when you're in your early 20s, but you're becoming unhealthy. Fit but becoming unhealthy, right?
And that's that sleep deprivation that early 20 peoples have.
Right.
That what they're doing is they're starting to trend towards problems.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, you're doing the beer and pizza, you're doing the late nights. My mom once told me, if it doesn't happen before 10 o'clock, it's not going to happen. I never knew exactly what she meant, but I'm sort of at 63. I think I get what she meant. You're like Casey Stengel, the great manager, said, it's not sex that hurts performance, it's chasing after it. And those things trend. And you're setting up the system. And I've always thought of metabolism kind of a snowball going down a mountain. I don't know if that's true, that snowballs get bigger. I don't really know if that's true. Here in the West, we have such dry snow, you can't make snowballs very well. But once you start trending in a good direction, it gets easier and easier and easier and easier. You follow? Once you get your sleep and you eat your vegetables and you eat your protein, you drink your water, and you train appropriately, pretty soon the hormone system jumps in and it's easier and easier and easier. once you back off sleep, eat crap, drink too much beer, blah, 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 you start to break down, and all of a sudden one day you wake up fat.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's the force multipliers, and there's also whatever the opposite of that is. Sleep. I mean, sleep's the big one. I'm sure, again, people are probably tired of hearing us talk about it because we always bring it up, but it's critical. I know for me, sleep is that hinge factor. If I get a good night's sleep, everything's better. I can form coherent sentences. I have good workouts in the gym. I write well. Things come with slickness and ease with a good night's sleep. If I don't sleep well, I want to eat crap. I don't want to move at all. My productivity in my business is just garbage.
Yeah.
So, and that's, I'm not that old. I'm not that fat. So if it affects me now, I can only imagine how much more it will play a factor 10, 20, 30 years from now.
Probably, Nick Raines over at Fit Ranks, he's real clear, about 35, 36. And when you look back, you talk to people, that's when you pay the piper. Well, good. Thank you for saying that, because I went to bed last night at 9:00, and I had my magic, sleep performance pajamas. I put on my Brain FM headphones, and I had an 8-hour guided sleep, which turned off in 2 hours and 20 minutes. I think I didn't charge it enough. I woke up at 6:58. So what is that? 3, 7. I got 10 hours of sleep last night, quality sleep, dark room, cool. And, I haven't eaten yet. And when I think about food right now, Patrick, it's like, yeah, I'm fine.
I'm okay.
If someone walked in the house with scrambled eggs and tomatoes and bacon, yeah, I'd probably eat it, but I don't need to. Right. But you're right. That was one night's sleep, and I'm thinking about this, and this is completely unscripted, ladies and gentlemen, completely unscripted. I'm thinking to myself, what a truth you're saying to me right now. That good night's sleep is completely changing the way I look at my day and nutrition.
Yeah. And I think that another point here is that everything is connected and everything matters. We can't really look at the human person, our fitness and our health with any one thing in isolation. You brought up alcohol. I know if I have like more than 2 beers within a 4-hour proximity of going to bed, I just have a terrible night's sleep every time. And it's funny. There's this book that's been making the rounds called Why We Sleep. It's a good book. And he argues in that book, he's pretty firm about it. This is one of the world's top sleep experts, that there's just no way around it. No matter what, alcohol impairs your sleep. Even if you don't think it does, he says, trust me, it is. And if you're going to drink, he says, best to drink at like 10 a.m., right? so that way there's more time removed from, now he's not recommending that seriously, but he says, if you're going to do it, just understand that there's always going to be consequences to your sleep with alcohol. So take that into serious consideration if you take sleep seriously, which the whole book is meant to get you to take sleep seriously. And then he gives I guess he calls it the politically incorrect vice to, if you're going to have a beer, have it with breakfast.
Well, my work with Rob Wolf, he has in fact, I call it the Rob Wolf, good tequila, club soda with the juice of 2 limes. And he goes, if you're going to drink that, because the club soda will drive the alcohol into the bloodstream, and you'll get the happiness of the alcohol. And then the lime juice has all the other, has the magic qualities of vitamin C and probably some other stuff that will, help on the health side. And it's like, if you're going to drink, okay, let's just review one more time. Okay, kids, alcohol's bad. Okay, everybody. Okay, but if you're going to drink, drink strategically.
Right. That's the way to do it, right? Because same thing. Like there's something very, again, here's how everything is connected. You say this, Dan. There's just something very therapeutic and healthy about having friends over, having a dinner with Dan John, having a glass of wine. Right. There's something that's just really good about that. And then, you understand like, hey, maybe tomorrow won't be my most vigorous workout in the world, or maybe it will be. Who knows? Sometimes you just have that.
Alcohol, Yeah.
Yeah.
Alcohol has no effect on my training.
But what he's really arguing is like, just don't make a habit of it, right? Like if you care about your sleep, of course, like anything else, you can indulge here and there. You won't ever escape. There's never just going to be, a perfect night's sleep if you decide to drink. And I appreciate the candor there. He's not trying to carve out a middle ground where there's clear that there isn't one. He's just kind of helping people set the right expectations. So it was a good book. Yeah. Why We Sleep. I forget the author's name, but I remember enjoying it.
Good. Well, thanks for sharing that. I don't know if I can afford another book, but I'm gonna go buy one.
That's fine. Just take out another line of equity.
No, I'm just looking around my room and I just see the piles of books growing. And this is just one of my little libraries. So, okay.
Thanks.
Getting back to one quick point before I answer questions.
Absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That 2-page simple fitness thing that you have in the generalism book, Pat, pretty good. Hey, would it be inappropriate for you to add that to the show notes?
What is that? Sorry, one more time. The checklist from my book.
Yeah.
I can do that. Yeah. I'll just find a copy. I should have a copy of my own book around here somewhere. I'll just take a picture of it.
Page 42 and 43.
Done. Yeah. I'll snap a picture and throw it up on the show notes so people can see.
I mean, your general says walk 20 to 60 minutes per day. Oh, I forgot the walking, dumbass. Oh, sorry. Okay. Sorry, real quick. So I've been doing these exercise videos. Okay. And if you get the humane burpee is viral. It is going through the roof. But there's another one I do, and the workout's called the Hangover, and it's Steve-O. Yeah, Steve-O came up with the name of it.
Yeah, that was last week's episode. We talked about that.
Yeah, it's swings mixed with T push-ups. Okay.
Yeah.
And at the end, when I'm going over to walk over to turn the camera off, I go, "Holy sh!" And then Brian cuts it right there. I just thought that was funny. Yeah. So it's walk 20 to 60 minutes per day. Use the following morning recharge mobility routine: jump rope, Turkish get-ups. 2 minutes of Hindu push-ups.
Oh yeah, I love the Hindu push-ups.
Okay. And then, and I was correct. Push hinge, squat pull, carry. Day 3 is interval running. Mm-hmm. Day 4, yeah, and that's very good. I mean, day 7 is walking and mobility only. Yeah, that is so. Yeah, you're doing push hinge twice a week, squat pull twice a week, and then you have day 6 is everything. Everything. Very good. And one day.
Yeah. It's always nice when somebody reads your work back to you, and you don't want to throw up on the floor.
Yeah. No, just you look at that, and I mean, good stuff. I just and I do like this idea. In fact, I started working on an idea about a book of like pirate maps and a book of quadrants, because that's the way my brain works. That'd be fun. Maybe I'll keep pounding away on that. Well, thank you, Patrick. Thank you for letting me share your work with you.
Well, anytime, Dan. Anytime. All right, let's turn to some questions. Here's a fun one. The first one here. This comes from gentle listener Matt. We're finally back to the Matts and Mikes. Always good. Always good. They were banned, but now they're back. All right. Matt says, if you guys could go back to school or re-major in anything, would you stick with your current degrees or pick something different?
Well, Matt, it's a good question. I was a literature major, and I left it because the other students were kind of assholes to me.
That's not nice.
No, oh, did you not want me to be candid? I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I mean, not the language. I mean, somebody wasn't nice to Dan John. Come on.
No. And it's because I was a what? What was my problem?
Were you too jockey, perhaps, or?
I was a jock.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I can see
and
that. Mm-hmm.
I felt, and the interesting thing, it wasn't necessarily the other students. They were more like, it was the instructors. Now, having said that, could I have handled the reading load of literature and been able to be a Division I athlete? But yeah, honestly, Matt, in hindsight, I think I have a good mind for the classics. I think I have a good mind for, discussion about. But having said that, I have an AA in paralegal, as a paralegal, a bachelor's in poli-sci, a master's in history, and a master's in religious education, plus advanced work and a whole bunch of different stuff. So I guess the only reason I'd say that I do feel like there's a gap in certain genres of reading that I'm filling in now. So, but thank you. I like that question.
That's a good one. I have to think. So my sort of going to school was an interesting experience. My undergrad was econ and finance, and the direct application of either of those to what I do now is minimal, but it's good because, you know, you get a lot of the kind of broad mathematical education. So I guess if I were to go back, I always liked math. Maybe I would just do like pure math degree or something like that.
You know, but
I don't know, or so. I'm not dissatisfied with my undergrad, but I would say it was kind of specialized in an area. I would have just rather have gone more deeper into like just math rather than finance or something.
I always tell high school kids, and they push back at first, but I tell them the two most important classes you take in high school. Okay, I gotta be careful on this. I think the reading classes, the English class, and that stuff is very important. But I think it's geometry and economics, because those are the two classes that make you think on top of itself.
Mm-hmm.
So if you decide A equals B, A has to continue to be that throughout. If this is a given, you know, this angle and that angle are the same, so to me, the learning the givens and then the proofs, that teaches a certain kind of thinking. And then in economics, you pick up that thinking into the real world with something as simple as cost to benefit ratio. And I can't remember the name of it, but when you keep adding employees until you become inefficient, the law of diminishing returns.
Right. Marginal utility theory, all that.
Margin utility and all that stuff. That information is a good toolkit. See, honestly, Patrick, if you think about most of our conversations, margin utility, cost of benefit, diminishing returns, we keep bouncing on those in the area of health, fitness, performance, and longevity.
Right. Finish your thought, and then I'll chime in again. And then, you know, for my master's for philosophy, that was great because I think like a good master's program, and I think you'd probably agree with this, Dan, is you got to read the primary sources. You got to read that's college for philosophy as far as I'm concerned. Unfortunately, a lot of schools have gotten away from that. So I guess the question, how I would answer the question is like how, you know, depending on what, like depending on what I'm doing now, or if I was like, and like looking back in hindsight, or if I were, you know, 18 again and like unsure of what I wanted to do with my life. I don't know. It's hard. It's a hard one to answer. Looking back now that I know what I'm doing in my life, I would want to have just spent more time on the things I'm most interested in with regard to utility in terms of like a career or something like that, if that makes sense. But when I wasn't entirely sure, when I was 18, you know, economics and finance made sense because I had a mix of things that I was interested in. There's philosophical elements, there's mathematical elements, but it's also, you know, an economics and finance degree. People hire people with economics and finance degree.
Right.
But I've never had a corporate, I've never even had like a real job in my life. I worked at Pizza Hut when I was like 16 for like 2 weeks. And that was about the height of my career with any major corporation. So
very often people think, I would say, exercise science, physiology, physical education. And I constantly say, well, then I would have stifled my career. Because even at Utah State, the PE majors would come and those areas would come talk to me about weight training, because what they were learning in their class didn't reflect what was going on in the weight room in the 1970s. And the funny thing is they actually were getting good information, but then it was getting flipped upside down by equipment manufacturers. You know, they were being told 3 sets of 8 with a minute rest, which, by the way, it's phenomenal, but it was on a machine, and they were trying to. So I know, but.
Well, to your point, Dan, I tell people, even if they're interested in fitness, don't major in that. Like major in chemistry, major in physics. Like do something that's far more demanding than kines. And I don't mean that to be degrading.
No.
But if you're going to pay all this money for college, like pay for a harder degree, because like you'll be able to handle figuring fitness. You'll be able to figure fitness out. Like not that it's, you know, I'm trying to phrase this in a way that doesn't sound supremely arrogant or condescending, but maybe you can fill in the blanks here of what I'm trying to say. Like, just don't major, like, just do something more serious, I guess is kind of how I'm putting it.
Well, it's like when I talked to my surgeon, and remember at the 2012 Olympics, everybody had that tape all over their bodies. So I asked my surgeon, because he's a young man, and he worked in the NHL as their chief of their orthopedic surgeons, which is pretty impressive. And I asked him about these tapes that the athletes put on. He goes, "Yeah, there's no way a piece of tape on the skin could put a muscle back in place. That's what I do, but I have to cut the skin. I have to sew it on." And so sometimes in our field, people start getting into the voodoo. The voodoo shows up.
Right. Yep.
Let's good, Matt.
Good.
We answered your question. Check mark.
Check. Okay. Next question is from gentle listener. Who is this? Todd. Todd says, Pat and Dan, I am exercising at work because I just cannot be consistent at home. I have to work extra hours. When I do get home, it is pretty late, and I need to spend as much time as I can with my 3, 7, and 14-year-olds, and if I am lucky, my wife. I have a 16-kilogram kettlebell, suspension trainer, and bands, tubes with handles, and PT bands at my office. In the perfect world, I would be able to find more time at home, but I end up starting really early or really late and end up burning the candle on both ends and just get exhausted. At work, I cannot get too sweaty or be disruptive, and I am limited to my workspace. So I've been doing sort of greasing the groove type stuff, 8 to 10 sets of push-ups or military presses throughout the day. Yeah, so he continues, the bathroom is 50 yards from my desk, and I can carry the bell every time I go. I do Dan's 3-minute goblet squat, where you hold the goblet squat and pop up and down every 30 seconds. I basically fit reps in where I can. Between meetings, calls, and so on, I am not looking to lose weight. I just want to keep strong and fit over the next few months. Any ideas how I can best program my office workouts to get the most out of my situation? It sounds lame, but I guess I'm just asking for the best no sweat, limited space, limited time workouts. Bright spot, I can pretty much, bright spot is I can get normal workouts in on the weekends. I have some kettlebells and my son's 100-pound barbell. I'm 50 years old, in okay shape. I just want to do the best I can. Thanks so much.
Well, I just got to say, first, hats off to you, Todd. Hats off to you. You're 50 years old with a 3-year-old. Now, that's another discussion for another time. But God bless you. Wow. I'm doing the math here, but I won't. First off, what I would recommend to you would be doing exactly what you're doing. I would do the grease the groove every chance you get. The only thing I would sort of get, and I would actually tell you to print off a piece of paper, put together like some kind of little, I just want a check mark workout where you got push, pull, hinge, squat, loaded carry. Your loaded carries, every time you, and I would print it out and have it, I would even say taped or someplace, someplace where every time you do something, you check it off. It could be as simple as, you could write in your case, like under push, you said push-ups. If you're doing any pressing, press. You have a suspension trainer. You would type in, you would put pull, and you would have suspension trainer T, row, and single arm row. I don't know what you're doing for hinges, but let's just say with the 16, you're doing kettlebell. You can't sweat, so.
Yeah, I like this. I like this idea of a no sweat workout. This is kind of a fun thought experiment.
You're doing kettlebell deadlifts or Bulgarian goat bag swings. Those are a no sweater. The 3-minute goblet squat test. I would recommend that in your case, probably twice a week with just some easy other ones in there. The loaded carries every time you go to the restroom and back. That's just awesome. But all I would say is check, and maybe you could, you sound like a bright guy, because I'm impressed by what you're doing. Anybody who agrees with me, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I'll think is bright. So push, pull, hinge, squat, the exercises you're going to do, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday columns, just check mark, and then kind of stand back on, say, Wednesday and say, oh, hey, man, I haven't been doing pulls. Thursday, you look back and you see, you've just got this mass of check marks in the push area. maybe no more pushes Thursday and Friday. Pick up the other areas. Can you also have a little sixth column that says mobility, and maybe add either something as simple as, wrist circles, elbow circles, hip circles, ankle circles, hip circles, knee circles, any kind of where you stand up and I don't know if you guys can see me, but I'm just doing wrist and thumb circles right now. It doesn't have to be too fancy, but maybe a 3 or 4 or 5 minute mobility thing. Maybe get your wrists moving, get your ankles moving. The hinge will take care of most of your hip flexor stretch. Maybe another hip flexor stretch in there. If you're doing half kneeling presses, you're going to take care of that. But just a general chart. You can put it on a clipboard, if you have to flip it over so you don't feel like a dork. And by the way, I used to work in an office when I was administrator, and I did some similar things, and I never felt like a dork because all I had to do was look at everybody else, and I felt, okay, this is okay. Yeah. So that was rude as shit.
We're gonna get some thumbs down on this video. I'm thinking back some of this stuff. Anyway, whatever. It's whatever. As we're just trying to give the best. These interviews always off the cuff. We're just trying to give the best, most straightforward advice that we can. And I'm with you. Whenever I feel like a dork at the gym, just take a couple steps back and you realize, first off, here's the thing to realize that if you're ever just feeling dorkish in life, immediately just remember that people don't care about you anywhere near as much as you think that they do. That's the best advice.
My lesson to Lindsay at Disneyland when Tiffany and I started singing a song, and she goes, "You're embarrassing me." And I turned to her and I said, "No one cares." Right. Look at that guy wearing that that big hat everyone wears, and no one cares. Not one person who's just spent $35,000 for the day here at Disneyland cares about whether I'm singing or not. In fact, they probably like the idea that I am happy.
It's probably nice, yeah. But that's a good thing to keep in mind. Is people just, I know it hurts our egos to think about it. We always like to think that the world's revolving around us, but chances are, most people just don't even know you're there, right?
No one cares.
No one cares. Perfect. All right. Shall we squeeze in? Yeah, by the way, Todd, so hopefully that advice is helpful. And honestly, if you're sweating on the weekends and doing that throughout the week, I think you're going to do just fine. Yeah.
And the only reason I'm asking him to do the checklist, Pat, is just to make sure, and he'll see it. He'll see it after about the second day where he's gapping.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. Okay, here's a good one from Timothy. He says, "Gentlemen, if you were to put together a mixed modality strength program, what pieces of equipment would you use for what exercises and why?"
Well, that I have a whole thing I call the killer apps. There's what are the exercises that are perfect for every piece of equipment? Like, for example, I think in the world of, barbells. Do you mind if I just march through it real quick for you?
Please. Mm-hmm.
Barbells. Deadlift and press, and yes, you could throw in squats, but because the barbell is designed for adding heavy load in those two exercises. The kettlebell, I honestly think it's the swing, the goblet squat, and the Turkish get-up. For the suspension trainer, TYI, single arm row, and some mobility work, by the way. The ab wheel, the ab rollout. That damn $10 device is genius.
I know, and some things are worth the $10 just to do one thing with.
Yeah. The dumbbells, I honestly think for carries. I think the dumbbell is superior for carries. So there's your perfect workout with the. But let's just go through. Let's go through push, pull, hinge, squat, loaded carry for you real quick. Ready? Military press, single arm row, deadlift, goblet squat, farmer walk with dumbbells, Turkish get-ups, and there's your perfect workout.
Perfect. And you can use a little bit of equipment at your big box gym. Which is good. You know, I know a lot of people. So yeah, you totally can, and a lot of people do just restrict themselves to one piece of equipment. You know, kettlebells or body weight. Fine. I think you can get most of the results you could want most of the time with just kettlebells and body weight. But if you have other equipment available, if you're going to a bigger gym and there's barbells and dumbbells and kettlebells, you know, like why bother using a less efficient piece of equipment if you don't have to, right? Mm-hmm.
And again, you know, you could take that and say, if all you got is kettlebells, you just fill it in. If all you have is barbells, it's easy to fill in. If all you got is, you know, the only one it is tough, if all you have is a suspension trainer, I think you really, you know, I've had people say, oh no, and look at this. And it's like, holy cow, I mean, it becomes, what was the old guy, Rube Goldberg, who used to make those weird devices that, you know, it's yeah.
But you're right. Some pieces of equipment just are not adequate for general physical preparedness.
If you just all you got's an ab wheel, I mean, we can get you tired, but your press isn't going to go on.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's your? I know we've covered this before, but we always have new listeners. You have to have a sort. What stands minimum effective equipment setup?
Well, for me, a 28 kilo kettlebell.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That's what happened when we moved to California. I went from not only probably America's finest school gym, but I had to give away all my equipment, and all I kept was a 28K. And sadly, of course, I was dealing with a necrotic leg there, hip, but I was able to get really, really great workouts. But if all I had was an Olympic bar, I'd be fine too. Right. But for me, it's a kettlebell that is pressable, and a pressable kettlebell, not your max, and then with that you can snatch and clean and swing and everything else. Mm-hmm. But when I would be on my beautiful porch overlooking the San Francisco Bay and Burlingame, watching the sailboat races while I was doing swings and presses and all that, that was delightful, you know, in the morning, in the clear air of the Bay Area in the morning.
See, I had this much more Spartan image of Dan John just hauling a single kettlebell into an icy mountain and then coming down barbarically stronger. But you're making it sound much more romantic than that. I mean, I'm fine with that. Yeah,
I could have done that too, but you know, there has to be a certain amount of truth in what I say too. But that, you know, that's the thing. I think there's some strength to this question, Pat, and gentle listeners. So what you do sometimes is, you know, you look around and you say, okay, what if I got rid of all this? What would I keep? Like, for example, for some strange rule, you're only allowed to have 10 books in your library. You know, what are the 10? I mean, you know, I'm sitting here right next to my copy of The Sword and the Stone, right there, right? How far do I have to reach for that? 10 books, one piece of equipment. And the idea on this intellectual exercise isn't that you're going to throw out all your other equipment. What it does for you is it gives you this idea of, I have enough. You know, Marty Gallagher, if you get a chance this week, everybody, Marty Gallagher at RAW, R-A-W, has an article on, it's called The Alone Diet, I think he calls it. Survivor, it's from a TV show called Survivor. You know what? I'm gonna send that link to you because I don't want to do this.
I like the 10 books thing. That might be worthy of opening our next episode up with.
Yeah, hold on just a second. I'm gonna send you the link so you can put it in the show notes.
Can do. Show notes for everyone listening are over at chroniclesofstrength.com, by the way.
It's called The Alone Diet Guaranteed to Work, and it's based on if we sent you into the it's not a good, if we sent you on survival, what would you do? And basically he wants you to fast until you kill your first thing. It's a little different, but it's okay. I'm summarizing a little bit too much. Pat, you just got it, okay?
Fantastic. I'll upload that over at chroniclesofstrength.com, right in the show notes. We got some good show notes, people. So if you haven't gone over to the website and if, I get it, people listen in their car and stuff, but take a peek over at chroniclestrength.com. Dan often sends us a lot of good stuff, previous articles, pirate maps that we put in the show notes. So definitely worth a look. Excellent. So Dan, as we wrap up here, what's going on at Dan John University? What are you filming? What are you uploading on the old YouTube?
Yeah.
What should people go be having a look at?
Yeah, folks, if you can, both on my Instagram account and YouTube, I've done the humane burpee, the shorter version, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1. Kevin, my friend Kevin's going to come over this week, and we're going to film the big one, the 15 swings, 10 goblet squats, 10 push-ups, 15, 9, 9, 15, 8, 8. I also have the workout called the Hangover just put up. I have my 2 favorite warm-ups on there now. I will be doing a new lecture here pretty soon. People seem to like the way my algorithm thinking is about when it comes to training. And so I'm thinking, I'm trying to put together a workout on, very much my coaching philosophy, if this, then, if then, if then. And a lot of people think all I do is, just spin around and wiggle my nose and magic happens. But really, the process is according to my interns, that's what makes my books, by the way. Someone will notice something I do, and I'll have to go, well, how could you, well, and clearing up all that nonsense is the book. If you're an athlete, then I train you this way. If you're not an athlete, that whole stuff gets pushed aside, Patrick, and then I train you this way. If you have, then I do. If like that good question we just had, was it Timothy's question about that led to the equipment question. If you have barbells, then here's your training. Right. If you have kettlebells and barbells, then you can do this. If you don't, you can't just wiggle your nose, tap your wand, and wish it would happen.
Yeah. Excellent. Good stuff. So check out Dan John's. I know we were messaging on Instagram, Dan. I'm going to catch up with you on social media here. We're going to get the YouTube channel. I'm going to get the cobwebs off of it. Maybe we can do a live stream Q&A at some point. That would be cool. Just got to figure out some of the tech parts. I'm going to start uploading these videos on YouTube again. So that'll be good. You've inspired me yet again, Dan. I'm looking to you now for social media.
It's a decision you have to make. I'm getting to the point where I can only answer so many questions in so many different places.
Right.
So I'll post a video on Instagram, the humane burpee. And I don't know how long it took, 4, 5, 6 minutes. And someone will ask, how long does the workout take? Well, it's like, holy jeepers.
Dan,
you are literally watching the workout.
Well, I can do you one better. I had legit somebody ask how long my 9-minute workout takes, and it wasn't a troll.
Well, when I first published the one lift a day program, and on the T Nation forum, the same questions kept coming up. On the squat day, can I add bench press? Well, then that would be 2 lifts. And this is the one lift a day program. After squats, can I do leg extension and leg curl? Well, here's the funny thing. No one's ever done the 7 sets of 5 front squat workout with jumps after and then said, oh, can I do more?
Right.
But it's real easy to ask
Yeah.
So, hey, listen, Pat, I love our Tuesday discussions.
Always a blast, Dan. Always.
And how about you? Anything in your life coming up I should know?
I saw
kids' pictures on your Facebooker.
Just trying to fatten them up, Dan. You know how it is. Mm-hmm.
Okay, kids. I just reread the section on Madam Mim, who eats children. Is this something?
Yeah, some weird going on. No, nothing good, nothing new. Everything is.
You need some food. I know Wisconsin's a tough place to eat.
Yeah, we got. We're doing all right. We're doing all right here. I appreciate the asking. The children are doing well. All things considered. I wish I had some exciting or interesting news to report, but my life is enormously monotonous, Dan. It really is.
Well, thank you for sharing that with me. On a final note, last Friday was my mom's, the 40th anniversary of my mom's death.
The soup, yes. I wanted to ask how the soup was.
The soup was very good. And of course, when I posted the recipe, everyone in my family said that's not the right recipe, but because that's my family. But I have to tell you that I think last Friday was honestly one of the best days of my life. There's some things that a good thing is probably going to happen to me in May or June this year. We'll share details when it's official. You know, I don't even know how making my mom's soup, I can't even explain to you what that did. And I know, gentle listeners, a lot of you are going, rolling your eyes, go, gee. But I've noticed people who don't have any empathy for loss have never had loss. So
right.
my life there's been a lot of loss in my life. Of course, God bless me, I'm 63 and I have more yesterdays than tomorrows, but it was a delightful day. A whole series of good things happened. And at dinner, I just said, I just can't get over how good today's been.
It's a beautiful story. I love that you shared it. And I also love that you sent over the recipe as well. So for people who want to try Dan John's mother's minestrone soup, very healthy soup. It's hard to find a healthier, better soup than that.
Don't put the macaroni in.
Mind if we put that in the show notes for the listeners?
I would be honored. But don't put the macaroni in. It really thickens it up way too much.
Great. Awesome. Beautiful, Dan. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my friend.
Always a pleasure. We'll chat to you next week.
Look forward to it. Take care.